Hello and welcome to another episode of Attacking Third podcast, the CBS Sports soccer podcast. I'm Sandra Herrera, CBS Sports lead NWSL writer, joined today by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, NWSL analyst and broadcaster. On today's episode, we will be doing a match recap of some midweek matches across the league and in some special tournaments taking place this week. And we will also hit you with a weekend NWSL preview. First, I just want to remind all our listeners that you can follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third, and to just check in with you all and let you know that we've been getting so many great questions over on our Apple Podcast review. So please keep them coming. If you leave us a question with a 5-star review, we will absolutely answer it on one of our segments. So keep them coming, guys. Lisa, we got a lot to get through today. Again, it feels like the Olympics all over. So much soccer happening.
We couldn't ask for anything more, though, really. It's fun, lots to watch. I like these midweek games. It breaks it up a little bit. And because of the WICC, there are a few teams not competing in the NWSL this weekend, which is fine. But I'm back. We're back at it, Sandra. I like it. We have had a busy week, lots of interviews that we put out, lots of content to cover. You are traveling, looking lovely in your hotel room. But besides that, how's life? How are things going?
It's going. It's going. It's been hectic out here.
Keep it honest for the people. It's
I will.
going.
I got to keep it real. I can't be anything else. The soccer truly never sleeps, but it has been delightful, honestly. All of the soccer that we've been taking a look at, and I'm excited to get into more of all of it with you and with our listeners. But first, we've got ourselves a quick plug. Just want to let everybody know Fantasy Football Today draft prepping for Charity Month supporting St. Jude is underway. Throughout the month, the FFT crew will have various eBay auctions supporting St. Jude, culminating in the 6-hour draftathon event on September 1st. Up for bid are pre-draft calls with fantasy experts, a spot in an expert fantasy league, a custom designed fantasy football team logo, and so much more. Go to cbssports.com/eBay to donate and bid. That's cbssports.com/eBay. I love a good charity auction. Shout out to St. Jude, my abuelito, and our church. It's all good always. I love it. So everybody check that out if you get a chance. And we're going to get into these games, I promise. But before we do, again, we keep hitting
There's
you
a
with
lot
oh
of
my.
preludes here, but that's all good stuff, guys. I
You're here.
swear.
You're here for the games, and so are we. We're gonna get into them, but this is important because it ties into these games. Okay. Before we get into the games, we have added more content on our YouTube page. So all of the full NWSL game highlights will be added to our YouTube page. We've added games from Wednesday, PSG versus Bayern, Racing Louisville versus Chicago Red Stars, and so much more. So if there is like a sick play that you want to go back and relive, or you hear us talk about something specifically, you can go and get an overview of the game that you just missed, and you can do that by subscribing to Attacking Third at youtube.com/attacking third.
And Sandra, we chatted a little bit about these highlights that are on the YouTube page for Attacking Third before we started recording. They're long highlights. They are extended highlights. You don't just get a little nibble of the game. You get the whole dang snack. It's totally worth it. It's the best way to catch up on games, of course, after you listen to our podcast. Then when we call out big plays, big shots, big performances by players, and we tell you to go watch them, you can head straight to Attacking Third on YouTube and watch it right there. I mean, all in one place. We can't make it easier for you guys.
Convenient, quick. I love it. I love some of the highlights already. Like I like that they're a little bit more extended. Quite
Mhm.
frankly, you can get a little bit more, like a little bigger bite of the game versus maybe like a quick 2 to 3 minute kind of highlight package. These are a little bit more extended, anywhere from 5 all the way to who knows how long. There's a couple up there that are maybe like 10, 12 minutes. So I'm very, very excited about that for sure. I'm also very excited to finally get into some of these games. Lisa, we got to talk about some of this action that happened on Wednesday. Chicago visiting Racing Louisville, the inaugural Women's Cup kicking off at Lynn Family Stadium in Louisville, Kentucky. And things got kicked off with PSG and Bayern Munich, and Racing Louisville and Chicago Red Stars were the second part of that doubleheader. And this match for Chicago Red Stars and Louisville, Lisa, this match also counted as part of an NWSL regular season fixture. So the ending result of the regulation portion of this match was what counted for both of these teams. So this game ended in a 1-1 draw. So both teams ended up splitting the points on the league table, and then they each went to penalty kicks to determine who was going to advance into this inaugural Women's Cup final, and Racing Louisville ended up advancing on penalty kicks. Lisa, this game, who, what, where, when, how, why, all of it.
I mean, there's so much to unpack with this game, Sandra. Like you mentioned, the fact that it ended in a tie, of course it would, because tie counts in the NWSL, but not for the Women's Cup. And then it goes to penalty kicks. Of course, why not? Louisville came out harder, stronger, faster, harder in the first 10, 15, 20 minutes, even the first half, until things really started to shift for Chicago in the second half, and play opened up. At 10 minutes in, Danielle Colaprico is trying to dribble out at the back. She has options to her right and to her left. Sarah Gordon on the right. I believe it was Tierna Davidson on the left, trying to pass out to them and making it really predictable which way she was going to go and where she was going to go. It was way too lax for Colaprico, just dribbling out. And Ebony Salmon, love it when forwards play defense. It pays off for Salmon in this scenario. She picks off the ball and just dribbles it right in. I think she gets the 5-hole for Cassie Miller. Some hockey talk for y'all, right between the legs. Which, I mean, great for Ebony Salmon, because I picked her apart a little bit last week. She had a few breakaways, open chances on goalkeepers, and she missed them. And in this league and at this level, you cannot miss those 1v1 against a goalkeeper breakaways. I mean, yes, kudos to goalkeepers for getting them, but as a forward, you need to bury that. And that's what she did against Cassie Miller and in Chicago last night, Wednesday evening. But for Louisville, this was the second game that they have scored in the first 15 minutes of the match. So that speaks to the mindset of this team. And for Christy Holly, what his message is to Racing Louisville is you need to come out on the front foot and impose your game on your opponents. Don't let anyone settle in. Don't let the tempo or momentum shift away from Racing Louisville. Get the ball in the first 5 minutes. Attack, put high pressure on, and get goals. They end up winning this one in penalty kicks, but ultimately, like, it came down to a tie in the NWSL, even though they scored first. So how can Louisville hold on to a lead? That's what I need to see from this team and from Christy Holly. It's not just getting on the board first, but keeping it or trying to get another one in their goal or in the run of play and in a game. Taking a look at the Chicago Red Stars side, Sandra, Mallory Pugh, she is so up and down for me. Last night, she played well. And on Wednesday, she played well in this Women's Cup for the NWSL. If she can create up top and be unpredictable in what she's going to do, she will be successful in this league and in her soccer career. When she gets the ball, she looks to dribble. She looks to shoot. She looks to find the final pass to a teammate, which is always a really good pass. And then occasionally ripping incredible shots from distance or dribbling all the way in and getting shots off. So she can continue to be unpredictable with the ball. She will continue to be successful. Kalia Watt, she ends up getting the goal. There was a lot happening in this one. A great goal by Watt. She deserved it. She had a few opportunities in this match. It honestly wasn't the most well-placed shot. It really wasn't. It slid right through a Louisville defender and goalkeeper before it found the back of the net, but it was shot hard and it was shot quickly because all of Watt's shots are really hard.
The build up to the goal was more impressive for sure. It was, but the actual goal itself was just a little bit of a ricochet.
It was pretty lucky that it went in. Honestly, it was pretty lucky that it went in, but she put in a lot of work leading up to it, so we'll give it to her, but I don't know.
It just sort of felt like that kind of game. And again, just to echo what you were saying about Louisville and the back line, they've had their struggles defensively this season. They've had games that they can go back and circle on this schedule that they've quite frankly, let get away. And honestly, looking back into this match when we're talking about luck, there's a very, very dangerous moment in the late part of this game where there was a plea for a handball call and was not given. And you see on the replay of this moment, this ball absolutely, Bonner making contact with this ball, even though it was kind of like sliding motion and just was not called. So you hate to see that type of stuff happen. What type of conversation are we happening if that actually gets called? What are we saying about the back line and the Louisville organization in this game if that does get called? It didn't, but we're still talking about it because that's our jobs, and we're still
And it
supposed to
should
do
have
that.
been called.
We're supposed to do that here. But it ended up closing out in a draw and going to penalty kicks. And I think if you're having these two goalkeepers, kind of go head to head, whether it's a Miller or a Betos, Betos has got the experience going into some of this stuff. So the fact that they were able to go and do what they did in penalty kicks was enough. A part of it was, players just not converting their penalty kicks. That's a huge part of it too. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes down into the final. Bayern is a very, very good soccer team. We got to see a real treat in PSG and Bayern playing that earlier game. Pretty close and narrow in terms of the score line anyway. But it's going to be interesting to see Racing Louisville and their style of play going up against this Bayern side for sure.
It will be such a big, big test of Louisville and their defense. And we just talked about it. It's not the most secure defense and it's not the most consistent. So going up against a Bayern, it will expose things for Louisville, which I'm honestly excited to watch. Not the exposure part. It sounds horrible, but you can learn so much from a team when they get exposed. You can learn so much from them, where the holes are, what players understand how to recover from that. And that's a maturity level. That's a knowledge of the game. That's an intelligence and a soccer IQ level. So on an individual player standpoint, I am so excited to watch this game to see if and where Bayern can expose Racing Louisville and then how the players respond and react to that all over the pitch.
Well, we'll see what happens. We had another NWSL game happen, although it didn't count in the regular season standings. Houston Dash and Portland Thorns went head to head in the WICC, the Women's International Champions Cup, alongside another doubleheader that featured Barcelona and Lyon, and a real tale of two matches here. But let's sort of hone in perhaps a little bit on this Houston Dash and Portland Thorns game. This was the second match of the doubleheader taking place in the WICC. And a little bit of maybe we're going to echo some similar things here when we're talking a little bit about the Houston Dash, because they came out really on the front foot, and all of a sudden that first half, they look to really be bringing it to Portland. And then things just completely changing in this second half for sure. We literally got to see somebody in Olivia Moultrie kind of really take over this game. The 15-year-old midfielder for the Thorns really kind of going into beast mode and changing things for this Portland Thorns side, and ended up getting 2 goals, providing the assist and then providing the equalizer, I believe. And then this game went to penalty kicks, and all of a sudden Portland Thorns are advancing into the final for this one after it looked like Houston Dash kind of had them on the back heels a little bit. So a really thrilling game, but a game again that did not count in the NWSL League standings. That was a big difference between the game that happened between Racing and Chicago and then the one versus Chicago and Portland. Lisa, were you able to take in any of this match at all?
Yeah, this was a fun one, and huge kudos to Olivia Moultrie, because what a game for her. What a showing. What a confidence booster for her. After she scored the goal, a set piece goal opportunity, well struck. The ball had a lot of spin on it. It wasn't super hard. It did bounce before it hit the back of the net, but irrelevant because she got her first goal. And the reaction from the teammates after Moultrie's goal, says everything about the type of person she is and the type of player that Moultrie is on the Thorns team. They were so excited for her. And I think everyone really is across the league, because this is a huge moment for her and for the league and for Portland, that she's just another player that's really good and that deserves to be playing in this league. So I'm all for that. I think that was a really huge game for her. Yeah, I'm happy for Portland at home and getting on the board 2 second half goals from Portland in this matchup after Houston came out first, hard and fast. Yeah, Kuika and Olivia Moultrie are the 2 goal scorers after this one. And Sandra, I'm exposing you right now. You're in Portland. You had the pleasure of watching these 2 games and these 4 teams in person, which after 2020 and the pandemic, like, that is so huge for media and for everyone. When you're watching this game, especially Portland, Houston, what things stood out to you that contrasted the game from the European side to the American side? I mean, we've talked to all these European players and we asked them, oh, what's different in the NWSL? What happens? But you got to witness it in person, both games back to back. What stood out to you?
Yeah, there's just something about being able to witness these type of performances, in person. You can see a lot of stylistic differences when you're watching these games in general, period, when you're watching them on TV or via stream on your personal device or wherever. But being able to get like sort of just the like full view, like pitch view of what's happening in a game, you're getting to see things that are happening off the ball as well as, on the ball. And it felt correct that these 2 games sort of happened the way that they did. You had the Europeans playing, against each other in Barcelona and Lyon first, and then we had a real American fixture take place in the second part of the doubleheader with Houston and Portland. And I think for those of us who, follow NWSL so closely, when you're looking at these 2 sides for Houston and Portland, you took a look at the lineups and you kind of saw some differences in this Portland lineup. You didn't necessarily see what could be considered their day ones, their A plus, starting 11. We really got to see some depth coming off of the bench to get the game going. And on Houston's side, we saw a lot of the regular starters. Rachel Daly was put back in up top for this team. We got to see Shea Groom have a heck of a first half for this team, really sort of pressing the issue against this Thorn side that maybe hasn't had a lot of time together for those particular players that we were watching in that initial starting 11. And then you saw in the second half as uh, Portland started to kind of press against the dash and kind of chip into their lead a little bit. We started to see a lot more physical and choppy play. We started to see, some disjointed play a little bit because of all of the fouling, a lot of the pressure, a lot of the physicality that was happening within the game. It's almost kind of like, well, if you start losing a game or if you're getting frustrated, just foul. Like just foul and just start getting frustrated. So it was very, very interesting to sort of watch that type of match being played out in the second half, in the second match versus what we all were watching in that very first game. I believe at one point watching this Barcelona side and this Lyon side, these 2 just absolute beasts of the game. You've got Barcelona as the reigning Champions League winners, and then Lyon is just like multi-time winning Champions League team going head to head with some of these big names. And we just started to see a lot of the very impressive tactical, stylistic type of soccer that we hear so much about coming out of these European sides. It was very, very impressive to watch Barcelona play in person. It almost felt as if a player wasn't taking more than a touch and a half before they were trying to find the next option. In terms of their teammate or their next channel or next player. And same for Lyon, to watch a player like Marjorie be able to really just turn it on and be able to kind of string things together, this sort of puppet master in the pitch and connecting with her teammates and setting them up. It was absolutely delightful. And these are 2 teams that are really in preseason form. So it was kind of like, wow, like what do these teams look like, when they're kind of really in the midst of of their regular season. So it was a real treat. And it's going to be an even bigger treat, I think, to see some of these things get mixed up because of the results of these matches. It's setting up a final and a third place match. So there's going to be Portland Thorns facing off against Lyon because they were the winners against Barcelona. And now Barcelona and Houston Dash will go head to head for this third place match. So I'm very excited to sort of see how these two sides go against each other, in these respective matches. It's going to be two very different stylistic type of things to pay attention to, and I'm looking forward to it for sure.
One thing that I have to give a lot of credit to for the WICC and the Women's Cup in how they set up these tournaments is Americans against Americans. So the final would be European versus American team versus NWSL team.
So you're getting to see, getting to see like two teams go head to head. So whether it's in the final, like an NWSL club versus a European club, or a third place match, where that is still going to feature a European club versus NWSL side. So it's going to be
great job on that. Great thinking on that side, whoever made the schedule, because that's what you want to see. And I'm excited for those matches to come. I really am, because that's what you want to see. So great job, whoever scheduled this. Well done.
I'm hyped for it. And I'm sure we're going to talk about it some more once these matches get underway. But we've got to preview the remaining NWSL matches that are going to be taking place this weekend. But first, we're going to take a quick hydration break because we have to do that on this episode. So cheers, and we will be back to preview the rest of the NWSL regular season. So we've got canned coffee, it looked like there, Lisa. I've got
of course.
Some bubbly Topo Chico that we all do our best to try to stay hydrated.
Lisa runs on La Colombe coffee for sure. And it's a good treat for me.
It's a good choice, because it's the choice that you made for yourself. Oh boy. We've got matches on matches on matches. Saturday, doubleheader. We've got North Carolina versus Kansas City NWSL, and OL Reign versus Gotham FC. Sunday versus Washington Spirit versus Orlando Pride for Sunday, and that's going to close out the weekend. So 3 games that we're taking a look at here, Lisa. North Carolina Courage versus Kansas City NWSL. Tell me who you got, and why are you excited for Kansas City coming off of the win?
You know it. I am so excited for Kansas City. I really am. They got their first win last week. That is so huge. And over OL Reign, a big powerhouse. Of course, we already talked about that. So this match, I have to go North Carolina. They have a lot of factors coming into this one. And although Kansas City has momentum coming off of their very big win, it's not enough. I think that Kansas City could provide a lot of pressure onto North Carolina. But North Carolina is just, they're good. They're also coming off of a win, which is great. A-Rod finally got her first goal with the Courage. So that's something for the Courage and for them going into this matchup. We talked a little bit about it when Kansas City got the win, but their structure defensively has gotten better. When they put Katie Bowen in the midfield, it worked wonders for Kansas City. Can she do that again? I want to see her in that 6th position again. I want to see her there causing trouble. Now, Kansas City and North Carolina, their numbers match up very differently. I think we'll see Casey forward dropping back into the midfield to defend. And remember, these are teams that traded against each other. So Kristen Hamilton and Mace, they know North Carolina very well. Maybe there's some insider conversation happening there now that they've had some time with their clubs, and A-Rod, who used to be with KC, now with North Carolina. So the conversations there off the pitch are happening for sure, just to understand their teammates and everything. So I'm going North Carolina on this game Saturday, the first of 2 for Saturday. Sandra, who do you have on this one, and why are you excited? Why are you watching Kansas City?
I'm watching Kansas City because I'm going to be looking if Adriana Franch is going to get this start. Lisa, we got to talk about it. A little bit of news within the recap and preview episode for this one. There was a trade that took place between Kansas City and Portland Thorns, and it saw the homecoming, really, of Adriana Franch to Kansas, and she will now be playing for Kansas City NWSL, and Kansas City bid farewell to Abby Smith and a lot of allocation money over to Portland. So I'm going to be looking for that. There's a lot of excitement right now around a player like France returning to Kansas, and lots of good stuff in terms of all of the press and the media, and really just all of the hype around having a player like that coming into this team. I mean, they're coming off of a win. They're in a tough spot in this regular season for sure. It's a tall hill to climb, but I think at this point it's really about building momentum into any future fixtures, whether it's the game that's going to happen next week or the week after that, and then looking ahead to next season a little bit. So you want to build any type of chemistry, cohesive soccer that you can, and having somebody like France, somebody who's been playing in this league for so long, just an absolute professional, an absolute pro, is going to be so helpful for this club and this locker room. But even with all that said, I got to go with North Carolina as well. There's just too much. There's just too much going on over here with North Carolina in terms of their overall personnel on the pitch. Paul Riley did go public in some media availability and did mention that Sam Mewis is still dealing with some lingering and ongoing issues in terms of injuries post Olympics. So that she will be out for the foreseeable future. He hopes to have her, for some type of late push in this regular season for the Courage. But as for now, moving forward, as of this current week and some of the more recent weeks on the horizon, they are going to be operating as if Mewis is unavailable. But even without a significant midfield piece like Sam Mewis, North Carolina has still got the clout. I mean, they've got the Lavinia back. We saw all the coverage that she can provide and what she means to this team when she's in the midfield. Somebody like Speck, who has been putting together some good individual performances, and somebody like Denise O'Sullivan, who just looks a whole lot better when she's got somebody like Lavinia to play with. So the midfield started clicking and looking like shadows of their former selves, even with somebody like Lavinia returning, even without somebody like Mewis involved. So I really do think it's going to come to North Carolina's way for sure in this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you mentioned Denise O'Sullivan. She's so fun to watch. I love watching her play. And alongside Dabinia, when they combine, they are very similar and different in their styles of play. And I think Dabinia being back with this North Carolina team, she thrives more so than she does, honestly, with Brazil at the international level. I don't know if it's the style of play or the people around her, but she wants to do really, really well with this North Carolina team. You mentioned AD French coming home to Kansas City. I don't know if you saw, it was her Instagram story, Sandra, made me cry.
Aww.
It made me cry. For those who didn't check it out the other day, it was a series of pictures of her in Portland and her time there and her teammates and the fans, and oh gosh, it made me cry. But I'm excited for her to be at KC, and I think that she can provide a lot of veteran experience for that team, and for them to climb this big hill that they have in front of them.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe they'll. This will be another week where they shock the league for sure. I would love to see it. I love to come back.
I would love that.
It's my favorite. I love to be wrong more than I like to be right. Let's look at the second match closing out Saturday. OL Reign versus Gotham FC. OL Reign coming into this one looking for a little bit of a bounce back. They were the team that ended up losing to Kansas City NWSL to sort of give them their first win. I got to say, that has to be a little bit of a motivating factor, don't you think, Lisa? I don't think you go into a game against Kansas City NWSL, the team with the lowest record in the league. And at the time, OL Reign really top form, coming off of an undefeated streak, really a win streak, and really playing some beautiful cohesive soccer, and then dropping a game, losing some big points in the standing as we're well underway in this second half. But now they're looking at a bounce back against a Gotham FC side that is a tough team to play against. We've been watching them all year. Their defense has been organized. They're tough to score on. Lisa, who you got in this one? What's going to happen?
This is so hard. There are so many factors heading into this matchup between Gotham and OL Reign. because Gotham's coming off of a tie with Racing Louisville, so they don't have that taste of winning in their mouth either, as OL Reign does not. Which I think the bounce back for OL Reign is going to be a little stronger, a little felt more. The ripple effect will be felt more throughout the team because they played against a team that shut them down. Not shut them down completely, but we talked about it. Kansas City did a really nice job defensively against OL Reign. And now going up against a team like Gotham, who is naturally defensively organized, it's going to be harder for them to break down. But I think the mindset for OL Reign is stronger. They have a lot of players that have been having really good games, not consistent 90-minute games or even 60-minute matches. So if they can get some consistency, this one will be a very tight game. A one goal in this one. I want to give it to Gotham. I think Gotham will come out
So you're choosing a
on
winner in
top.
this one.
I am choosing a winner,
right.
but only by one. Just how Gotham has been doing and the players in their midfield. And I think Iffy up top has been playing well and getting more confident in her abilities. And I think also the announcement of Carly Lloyd retiring put lights a fire under Gotham that they need to do better for her as a team and as a unit. You need to continue to get wins for Carly Lloyd. I go Gotham in this one. Who do you have?
I don't have a winner in this one. I think it is going to be a draw. I think this one is going to come down to a draw because it's going to be like chaotic, but I want it to be like a big draw. I want it to be like 2-2. I want it to be like a high scoring draw. I want some of that NWSL After Dark action for sure in this one. Let's get it. Let's bring it. I want to believe that both these teams are going to feel like they want to score some goals. No defense, just vibes in this one. So I'm hoping that it'll be a draw, and I hope that it'll be a high scoring draw.
Sandra, you're talking about a team like Gotham, who defense is like their middle name as
let's
a
switch it
unit,
up.
and Freya Coombe, that's what they preach, and maybe sure, let's give
switch
it
up.
goal
Let's switch
scoring
it up.
vibes.
Carly, like you said, Carly Lloyd could be back in this one. Who knows if she's going to get the start or be on limited minutes. We will see. We're slowly starting to see the return of U.S. Olympians back with their teams, if not being in market and the boost that provides for certain teams. So I'm hoping that there's a little bit of that. I hope that there's a little bit of that energy, that
I
offensive.
don't know though. She's been doing a lot of wine promotions and beer promotions.
We'll see. Let's get sloppy. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen in this match. But watch it be like a 0-0 draw. I'm trying to hype it up, and it's gonna be like a 0-0 draw.
It's gonna be 1-0 to Gotham. Come on.
All right. We'll see. But you chose a winner. I did not. All right. Let's close it out. We've got Washington Spirit versus Orlando Pride to close out NWSL weekend action. It's the interim head coach battle, I guess. We've got Washington Spirit hosting Orlando Pride. I'm curious to see how these two coaches are going to have their teams lining up and playing against each other. There's been a lot, obviously we've talked about it on this podcast. There's been a lot going on for the Spirit, and in terms of their ongoing head coach search, they've got an interim head coach at the moment, and they came off of we're talking about wild draws. They came off of a wild draw themselves, against Houston Dash, and you got to feel like a win can possibly do some other things besides get them some points in the standings in this league. It could provide really good energy. It could provide a boost, morale boost to the team. And I'm looking for, yes, strong individual performances in a game like this, but I really want to see like that really good kind of cohesive soccer that we were watching in this early part of this season for this team. Maybe not really right at the beginning, but probably like right before and leading into the Olympic stretch of the season. We started to see some really, really good stuff happening between this team with the attacking line dynamic between Sanchez and Hatch and Rodman, and watching the play of somebody like Andy Sullivan in the midfield for this team, the leadership that she's been providing, and really somebody like Tori Huster as well alongside her. So I'm a big fan of that. I think for me, Lisa, in this one, I'm gonna go with the Spirit to take this one. Tell me who you got and what you're gonna see in this one.
it's really like a bit of a rookie ball against some veteran ball in this matchup. You mentioned Sanchez, but Hatch, Rodman up top going against Orlando players, and defensive line like Allie Riley, Allie Krieger, Ashlyn Harris. I mean, you look at the offense for one side and the defense for the other. I don't know. This one is tricky for me. I think if Rodman is on her game and if Hatch is on her game, they could put Orlando under a lot of pressure. They could do a lot of damage to that back line. But remember, Marta is back for the Pride after this Olympic stretch. You can't forget about her.
Yeah, and Rodman has been kind of, lingering with a little bit of an injury too. So there's some real unknowns in this one, honestly.
Yes, that's what I mean. So this is different. And I think that Orlando interim head coach Becky Burleigh has a little bit more. She's been playing it safe with this Orlando Pride team in the sense of she's trying to understand, she's trying to absorb all the knowledge and not make too many changes. But I think she's learned enough and a lot about this Orlando Pride team that they could come out on top. So I'm going to take Orlando in this one because I also like to disagree with you.
I'm like, finally, we have one.
But it's true. It's true. I think that Orlando Pride could come out on top in this one just based on what's happening. This game, I think Washington announced it's the return of their Olympians, so they'll be honoring them. So there's a lot of emotions flying high, and the veteran experience that Orlando Pride has will shine. And Rodman with a little bit of an injury, I think that the veteran experience in the back line outweighs the young, quick speed of Washington's front line.
All right. We'll see. We'll see if we come back on this recap for everybody to see our picks and go over them and who was right, who was wrong. Or
can't wait to give each other smack talk for it.
Oh man, watch. All of our picks they're all gonna be out draws now. Watch. We're gonna put the jinx on them for sure. But I want to remind everybody that along with the recap of the NWSL matches, we'll also be taking a deeper dive into the finals that are taking place with the WICC and the Women's Cup. We'll cover all that big stuff, so we'll fill you in on everything that you need to know. A reminder that if it's too much soccer for you, that again, you can visit the YouTube page and find the highlights. But I just want to thank everybody once again for listening to us. I appreciate you all so much. A quick reminder to follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your podcast shows. Please leave us a 5-star review with a question and we'll answer it on one of our segments. And we're also available as video. So just subscribe to us as YouTube. Just visit youtube.com/Attacking Third. And we will be back on Monday with more NWSL action, recaps, and more. For Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.